Right, welcome guys. Trump has ordered a pause on military aid to Ukraine. This is, of course, following the Oval Office spat. I did a live stream kind of discussing this and breaking it down because in the days that followed, you had Herr Starmer of the UK, Keir Starmer, basically saying, we're with you until the very end. And that is the dialogue from a lot of people. Just to break it down and break down my thoughts, because of course loads of people will misconstrue, I'm sure anyway, misconstrue and put words in my mouth in terms of where my allegiances lie. Don't particularly care about Russia, don't particularly care about Putin. I think largely a lot of what they do is pretty evil. I'm sure the Russian people are lovely though, just as an FYI. It's governmental issues. I don't care about Ukraine remotely. I couldn't care less about Ukraine. They were never an ally. They are or were the second most corrupt country in Europe, and we've somehow, some reason, just forgotten that. This war is lost. Wait, and it is lost because everyone just goes, well, what's the solution then? Just give Putin the land that he stole. And people keep going, illegally. Is there a legal war? What are you talking about? Spaz. I'm pretty certain, as a matter of perspective, right, the world police are not going to come and, I don't know, take you to jail for an illegal war. Illegal wars. What a bizarre concept. But Putin has won, and there are only so many Ukrainian men left, right? This is just the harsh reality of the situation. Unless the West physically actually put soldiers fighting with the Ukrainians, which then escalates it to a world war, the war has lost. Like, it's done. So unless you guys want World War III, the solution is a peace deal. And yes, some of that may be Putin keeping the land with the ethnic Russians in. It may result in that, yeah. But it's better than a world war. Anyway, just need to say that from the off, because the reality is that unless the West steps in, which does escalate it to a world war, there are only so many men that Ukraine can send to the meat grinder. Loads of people may unsubscribe right now. Loads of people may call me some kind of, I don't know, istophobe or bigot or some crap. I don't know. But unless you can actually refute that properly, you're a simp for the left-wing propaganda that seem to want an endless war. Anyway, point is, this happened just now. Well, just now. For me, it's just now. Anyway, this is pretty hot off the press because the time zone difference and things like that. Donald Trump orders pause on military aid to Ukraine. So, Donald Trump has ordered a pause on aid to Ukraine as his administration seeks to pressure Volodymyr Zelensky to work towards a peace deal with Russia. The Associated Press and other outlets reported last night. A White House official said that the pause was part of a review to ensure that the aid is contributing to a solution. Now remember, Zelensky's gone on record and said half of the aid hasn't even turned up. Well, where is it then? Where is it? You can't keep expecting endless aid to be sent to you when 50% of it doesn't even get there. I mean, there's an issue there as well, right? The taxpayers of each individual country cannot be expected to keep footing a bill when half of it doesn't go where it's supposed to go, and you don't know where it is. Side note, probably in some Ukrainian and Americans' bank accounts. And also as well, it says is contributing to a solution, right? Like, that's the point. Is the aid actually going to resolve the war? Because you can throw as much money at, you can throw as much money as you want at this situation, but without manpower, which Ukraine and Russia both need, it's going to come to a head. And I believe it already has come to a head. There was those big final last pushes and this, that, and blah, 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 and nothing's ever happened. Russia's still got the land that they stole. And again, I'm no friend of Russia, right? I'm sure the Russians are lovely. I'm sure the government sucks. It's not about that. It's about looking at the situation and going, well, what's realistic? And if throwing hundreds of billions of dollars and pounds like we are in the UK won't contribute a solution, then why are we doing it? The only actual solution to this war, which no one can seem to argue against, is, in terms of actually wrapping it up, right, is actually the West getting involved. And at that point, it's an escalation, isn't it? And I don't know if you didn't know this. I don't know if you did know this or didn't, but the UK only has about 60 to 69,000 soldiers. That's how big our military is. That's not great. That's really not great at all. And these other places, I mean, that was the amount of people that died in Ukraine in a matter of a couple of weeks. It's absurd. These numbers are absurd. To think that we're a military superpower now is laughable. And conscription in the UK is not going to work. People aren't going to fight for this country. And the people that go, well, do you know? Do you have asked them? Have you? No, you haven't. But secondly, there have been people that have asked them. And the majority of the people that we've allowed to come into this country and have citizenship have said, no, because I'm not from here. Why would I fight for this place? Which is the problem that you get with globalism. But anyway, this continues. And says, the action follows the tumultuous meeting between Trump and Zelensky last week, which ended with Zelensky being asked to leave the White House without signing a mineral deal. During the Oval Office blow-up, Trump and President Vance complained that Zelensky was being disrespectful, as he tried to make the case that the Russians could not be trusted. I think Zelensky overall was reasonably respectful. I think perspective is important here, is as someone who needs to keep morale up on the Ukrainian side, it makes sense that he does a lot of posturing if you wanted to continue the war because you need morale up. But if the solution is a peace deal, then the posturing has to stop. So on Truth Social, Trump reacted to an AP story in which Zelensky said that the end of the war with Russia was far away, very far away is what he said. Is it? How long can your men last? Like, honestly, how long? Because the economic sanctions on Russia didn't work because it can be very insular. Well, one, we actually just pushed them towards China and India, and they created BRICS, so this big economic bloc now, which is, I mean, that's very worrying. That was incredibly dumb of Biden. Really, really dumb, actually. And the UK. They've got they're resource rich as a country. They're incredibly large and they're resource rich. They don't need an outside economy. They don't need their GDP to keep going up. Economic sanctions are not going to work on Russia because it's not actually the be-all and end-all. The UK's GDP has consistently gone up year on year, and yet we are the poorest, the most dangerous, and the shittest that we've been on a GDP per capita basis for a very long time. So GDP go up doesn't actually help or benefit anyone. So economic sanctions were never going to work. And they're incredibly resource rich. They don't actually need to connect with the rest of the world. They don't. They could be an isolated... they could just be a very isolated community, right? Which they kind of technically are now. And they'd be fine forever. So saying, oh, it's very far away. It's like, well, what good is that going to do? Come on. So Trump said, this is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelensky, and America will not put up with it for much longer. It is what I was saying. This guy doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has America's backing. And Europe, in the meeting they had with Zelensky, stated flatly they cannot do the job without the US. So all that posturing was for nothing. All of that was for nothing. Absolutely absurd. Trump's citation of an AMP story comes in spite of the fact that the White House has banned the wire service from pooled events because it refused to rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of California. Zelensky wrote on Truth Social earlier today, the basic scenario is to maintain positions and create conditions for proper diplomacy to achieve the swiftest possible end to this war with a just peace. We need peace, true and honest peace, not endless war. And security guarantees are essential. The absence of security guarantees for Ukraine 11 years ago allowed Russia to start with the occupation of Crimea and the war in Donbass. he would have had the security guarantees by proxy with the mineral deal because America would have had an economic interest there. Without an economic interest, why would America get involved and send their troops to die? Like, why? You can't be the world police. You can't reject imperialism and colonialism and all these concepts of, you know, countries going to war and all this kind of stuff, and then expect countries to go and save you and protect you and all this other stuff. It doesn't. It's just such a warped outlook to have. It's hypocritical. Later, the absence of security guarantees allows Russia to launch a full-scale invasion. And now, due to the lack of clear security guarantees, Russia continues to fuel this war. The world sees this and the world acknowledges it. The mineral deal would have given you the security guarantees because there would have been an economic interest. There would have been a reason for troops to be there, or at least Americans to be there. I doubt Russia would have done anything with Americans on the ground there, you know, with an economic interest there. I don't think they would have done anything because I think Putin knows that if they did, Trump is the kind of guy to push a big red button. He did it to that, what was it? The Soleimani guy, I can't remember his name, Syrian guy, I think it was, the general guy that he just was like, yeah, I drone struck him, who cares? He was an evil guy. So, like, Trump is the kind of guy that would do that. I don't think Biden was. And I think Putin knows that. You know, these people communicate on a different level, and it's about strength and power. Putin doesn't respect Europe because he doesn't see them as powerful. He sees them as just pencil-pushing bureaucrats that care more about dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Putin's probably going to be laughing at Europe with the fact that they've allowed... like, that they're saying they're going to protect Ukraine's borders whilst not having borders themselves. I mean, it's the most farcical outlook you could possibly have. You know, we're going to protect Kiev when we can't protect Kent in the UK. Really? Behave. Behave. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. So this is a disaster. It's a disaster for Ukraine. It's a disaster for Europe because now Europe is going to have to make a decision, and that is the UK as well. They're going to have to make a decision on whether they choose to escalate this without the backing of America. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here. This is obviously one of those quickly developing situations. Now, I know this video will cop a lot of flack, but remove your emotions from the situation just for 1 second and ask yourself, what does peace look like to you then? Because if it is Russia giving up everything that they have claimed, it's not going to happen. That's just being a realist. It's not going to happen, right? And if you want the war to continue, and that is the end goal, them giving up absolutely everything that they took, then you are quite literally condemning Ukraine to the most certain destruction that will come. So, and that's not to say that I want that to happen. It's not to say that that's the best thing to happen. It's just the realistic truth of the scenario. Unless you then want to send our troops there to die, which we don't have enough. So that's not going to happen either, is it? Let's be honest, that's dumb. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop it down below. Take care. Bye-bye now.